Hello there, good morning. You're watching Proactive London, and Ian Williams is joining us today from Charteris. A warm welcome to you, Ian. How are you?
We're doing very well, thank you. Nice to be here.
So much to talk about today. We're going to talk about macroeconomics, gold, and everything that you're involved with. But before we do that, maybe just introduce us to Charteris, if you would.
Okay, well, we run 4 funds. We run private client wealth management as well, but we're best known, I suspect, for 4 funds. The biggest of which is our gold fund. And that's the one that sort of, if you mentioned Charteris, you've got a nice gold fund, so that's the one we're probably best known for.
All right, because there's so much going on in the markets right now,
Yes.
I don't even know where to start, but let's maybe just concentrate on gold,
Right.
because that should keep us busy.
Okay.
Where's gold going?
Well, over the next 3-4 years, we think the price of gold is going to trend very, very much higher than it is at the moment, partly because of the inflation that's being unleashed. But also there's a new ingredient been injected into this, which is the biggest event probably in financial terms we've ever seen, which was the freezing of the assets of the Russian central bank. Now, what that means is if you're, head of the Chinese central bank or the Indian central bank or any other central bank in the world, you're thinking, do I want my money in the United States in US Treasury bonds, where if we fell out with the United States, they could freeze our assets. So we think it's going to trigger a massive move, first by China, for obvious reasons, because of Taiwan, out of US Treasury bonds and dollars into gold, and then have the gold shipped back to their own countries where they can control it and where it can't be subject to confiscation.
Okay. Should we get peace tomorrow, what then happens to gold?
Well, that's still going to take, that move by the central banks is probably set in stone. It's probably the most stupid thing the Americans have ever done, and they've done lots of stupid things. But freezing the assets of a central bank when you're the world's reserve currency, if you had your money in a bank, would you be happy if the bank manager could confiscate your money if you fell out with him, had a row with him? What would you do? You'd take your money out of the bank and put it somewhere else.
So do you think gold is still the ultimate safe haven?
It's the only thing that's sanction proof. When they froze the assets of the Russian central bank, they froze their holdings in euros and European government bonds and all sorts of things. But they couldn't the gold was back in Moscow. Gold was untouchable. So the gold portion of the Russian assets weren't confiscated. So China's obviously looking at this very, very closely because of what might happen in Taiwan over the next few years. It's obvious what they're going to do. They're going to, and it also fits in. If the Chinese can get enough gold, they've already got quite a lot anyway. They can make at some stage they want to make their currency fully convertible as a rival to the US dollar. What better way than to make it gold or semi-gold backed? Because then you're competing against the dollar, which is backed by nothing, with the Chinese Chinese currency backed potentially by gold. You see, as the whole Eurasian free trade area opens up, which China's going to dominate.
So what about the Asian countries in general? Do you think they're on the winners list? Would you say
yeah, big time. Oh yeah, all the, there's going to be a massive shift of economic power from the west to the east, and this war in Russia is just going to accelerate and accentuate it. And the winners are in Asia. Asia's where all the growth is. Asia's where all the manufacturing capacity in the world is now. Asia is it for the next 10, 20, 30 years, and the West is in relative decline.
So if you've got a portfolio right now, it's got no gold in it, it's got no sort of Asian countries, what would you do?
Well, you'd add to it. Both.
What would you put in it?
I think that you need gold, but to 2 reasons. A is probably the best protection long term against inflation, and B, it's going to benefit from all this geopolitical stuff going on. So you definitely, depends on your risk profile. But a lot of investors haven't got any. Well, that's the zero allocation of gold is the wrong number. You need some, whether your own risk profile, or it's 5%, 2%, 10%, or whatever. Asian equities are obviously long term going to outperform European equities and American equities. A lot of American equities are probably overvalued anyway. So if you're running a traditional portfolio with US equities, European equities, and not much exposure to Asia and not much exposure to gold, you need to rejig that in our view and have much greater exposure to gold, and not just gold, because don't forget, also coming up on the agenda is all the decarbonisation. So
Very
all the
much
metals.
so.
So it's not just demand for gold; it's demand for copper and nickel and
lithium and everything else.
Again, and so you want to be exposed to those sectors, not just gold mining, but the big Australian mining companies, which is also in Asia, Rio Tinto, BHP Billiton, because they're going to make a fortune out of all this demand for metals as they move away from oil.
Yeah, and electric cars, of course.
Exactly.
Yeah,
I mean, an electric car takes 4 times as much copper to build as a petrol car. Well, where's all the copper going to come from?
Yeah, and the batteries as well, to make the
Exactly,
batteries. So what is the global economy going to look like in a year's time?
Well, it depends how long this war in Ukraine goes on. But in a year's time, it might not much different. But in 5 years' time, it could look completely different, because I doubt the war will go on for 5 years.
Let's hope not.
Yeah, exactly. So, and when it settles down, Russia has made a shift now to Asia. It's made a pivot to Asia, and
Asia's made a pivot to Russia as well.
yeah. Well, you see, India, the Americans tried to get India to join in the sanctions against Russia, and they refused, because they need Russia as a counterbalance to China in terms of the pecking order within in Asia, you see. And it's such a potential big honeypot. Everyone in that region wants in on it.
Yeah.
So,
Ian Williams, we could talk for hours, couldn't we? It's all going on. Thank you so much indeed for introducing us to Charteris here on Proactive London.
That's the long-term story for gold, anyway.